warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, today we will present a company A Asia X Berhad. The topic is financial performance issue. So this slide is prepared by Siti Nuraini binti Abdullah and Siti Aisyah binti Muhammad Yusof. Okay, the content is the first is case background, then followed by company background, and then analysis, ratio analysis, common size analysis, estimating free cash flow and value of company, and then followed with recommendations, and lastly conclusion. Case background. Following the movement control order due to COVID-19 outbreak, all foreign travelers are barred from entering Malaysia until further notice. The announcement had a great impact to airline industries, including Air Asia X Berhad, as the services are focused on international flights. Asia X released their first quarter financial report 2020, reporting an operating loss of 158 million. Asia X already faced financial problems for the past 2 years with negative 306 million and negative 227 million in 2019 and 2018 respectively. According to the deputy chairman, the company had total liabilities of 63.5 billion and need to restructure their massive debt to manage their cash flows. In order to keep Asia X to keep operating, the company needs about 500 million financial assistance from the government or any financial institution. Asia X needs to make sure that they have strong cash assets to manage their short-term and long-term debts. For example, in 2019, the total current assets is 1.5 billion, but the total current liabilities is 2.5 billion. The quick ratio is about 0.6 only, which shows that the company had a liquidity problem.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So I'm going to explain more about the company background. Okay, first of all, Air Asia X Berhad is a leading long haul, which is a low-cost airline operating primarily in the Asia Pacific region. So it was established as the Fly Asian Express, which is in 2006 and start to servicing in a rural area, which is Sabah and Sarawak, which is in east of Malaysia. And also it started to rebranding in September 2007, followed by their first flight to the Gold Coast, Australia in November 2007. Okay, as for the 15 July of 2020, which is just recently, so Air Asia Express X served as in a 26 destination across the Asia. So the first low-class airline in the Asia to be given approval by the Federal Aviation Administration to operate into the USA. And also they also have the lowest unit cost base of any long-haul airline in the world, which their cost per available seat kilometer is about US 3.04 and also cost, which is excluding their fuel, which is about 1.88 US for the year ended 2019. So Air Asia X Berhad also offer a quiet zone cabin on all flights across the network. And Air Asia X also was voted as the world best low-cost airline, premium cabin for 7 consecutive years. Liquidity ratio. From the current ratio, it can shows that the ratio has decreased and increased over the last 5 years from the 2015 to 2019, which a minimum rate which is 0.41 in 2016. So this is due to the expansion of Air Asia X to many of the region. And also it increased a little bit in 2018 but decreased again in 2019, which is 0.58. In 2019, we can see that not only Air Asia X faced the issue, but mostly the industry that involved in tourism tourism got affected after COVID-19 was blown out, not only in Asian but also in a worldwide. And for the quick ratio, A-Asia X experienced a decreasing trend in 2019, which is last year, for about 0.57. So it showing a weak liquidity position and the high risk of the company. As also, it's also lowered down the capacity to cover its short-term obligation by using the most liquid current asset. And also for the cash ratio, A-Asia Act clearly show the capacity to cover current liability by using only cash and cash equivalent, which is quite a weak, especially in 2018 and 2019, which is the group should rethink over its credit policy relative to its cash and the cash equivalent. Okay, next. Okay, for the solvency ratio, so from this graph, we can know that from debt to the equity, they show the higher proposition of the debt financing A Asia X asset, which is a constant rate of between 5.47 to 6.46 in 2015 and 2018. So which they have both have a slightly higher risk involved for creditor, which will make for them weak in a long term and financial security for the A-Asia X. And also for debt to asset, A-Asia X show increase in a ratio value as it peaked quite high in 2019, which about 0.99. So this indicate that the group might not be able to withstand losses without harming creditor interest or could obtain additional financing if desire. And also the financial leverage. Asia X Berhad has a higher operating leverage ratio in 2019. It's peaked high at 78.54 as the company generate few sales due to obstacle in the pandemic COVID-19 in 2019, yet they has high cost or margin that need to be covered. It may be either result in a lower income target or insufficient operating income, as well as to cover the other expense, and also it's a result in the negative earning for the company. Okay, for next slide. Okay, in a ratio analysis also we running profitability ratio. Under the gross profit margin, the gross profit declined from 0.03 in 2006 to a negative 0.04 in 2019. So this showing that A-Asia X Berhad is losing its productivity in maintaining its gross profit margin. So this situation is not a good sign toward an investor, as A-Asia X Berhad should manage more and reducing its expenditure and also the cost. For the operating profit margin, in 2019, the ratio is about 0.09, which is higher compared to the other year. So this is due to the net operating income is higher compared to previous year. So the higher, it can be seen from the higher cost and expense as well as the lower revenue due to the flight cancellation as well as their overhead also increase. So this pandemic from the last year, which is COVID-19, is not only affected for the A-Asia company Berhad, but also the whole industry that mostly related in the tourism area. And the net profit margin also showing the decline from 0.02 in the 2017 to negative 0.09 in the year 2019. So it show the increased amount of expense and also the finance cost. So this the decreasing trend also explain the weakness of the A-Asia Berhad to translate more of its sale into a profit. Okay, next, which is profitability ratio. For the ROE, A-Asia X Berhad generate lowest rate of ROE over these 5 years in 2019, which is the last year, which a minimum negative 5.5. So it can shows that when a company incur a loss, so there is no net income, which is return on equity also, which is negative. So a negative ROE is not necessarily bad, mainly when the costs are also a result in improving their business, such as through restructuring. For return on asset, A-Asia X Berhad is the lowest for the last year, which is negative 0.07 both in 2018 and 2019. This happened because Asia acts Berhad as a financial loss or a luxury return on investment during the specific period of time. So in another word, Asia acts Berhad loses more money that it bring in and also experience a net loss because the revenue they bring is not as much as what their expenditure and also their liability and also their expenses. Okay, next. For the common size analysis, based on horizontal analysis in income statement, the revenue of Asia as Berhad is in an increasing trend since 2016, which is from 127% to 138.21% in 2019. That increase in revenue was mainly due to the steady growth in the low-cost aircraft demand. The net profit also shown an increasing trend in loss over the past 5 years from negative 12.2% in 2006 to 186.21% in 2019 as operation expand and costs keep increasing from 2015 to 2019 based on the trend show. And also for vertical analysis on the income statement financial year 2019 is at lowest, which is about negative 16.13. This is due to the higher operating expense as well as the lowest revenue. Also, they can be also due to the halt in operating and operation as a mostly aircraft industry have to stop the operation due to pandemic COVID-19 in the 2019. Okay, next. For the horizontal analysis in a balance sheet, for the non-current asset from 2015 to 2019, Asia Hex Berhad show increase in their non-current asset, which is about 214.5% in last year compared to the previous 4 years. So it can be seen due to the asset and leverage it to incur, which is more income as well as leasing their equipment and property. For the current asset, the horizontal analysis show a dramatic increase trend for the past 5 years, which is from 2015 and 2019, which can be explained by the progressive increment in the inventory as well as amount to the subsidiaries. In 2019, also all receivable and prepayment also increased compared to the other years. Okay, next. Okay, for the current liabilities, the current liability experienced an increase from 109% in 2016 to 130.7 in 2019. So the total current liability shows such increase in 2019, mainly due to the increase in other current liability, which represent the amount due to borrowing at about 274.3%. For the non-current liability and equity, the significant increase in non-current liability and equity largely due to the sharp increase in both borrowing at about 493% in last year, which is might be due to accumulated losses in equity that made the Asia X Berhad seek to borrowing to sustain and strive in their operation and expand. Okay, so I will pass to my friend. No yet. Okay, for the common size analysis, in a vertical analysis for the balance sheet for the total asset. For the total asset mostly represented by their property, plant and equipment that Asia X Berhad have. So in the last year, Asia X Berhad used their right of use asset to increase their total asset as well as in trade and receivable. So this will allow the Asia X Berhad to strategically invest in asset or equipment that will further expand their capacity and also services to grow the group business. For in addition, the total current asset from the total asset is lower over the last 5 years, representing 50.67% as a minimum percentage in 2019 and 36.24% as a maximum percentage in 2018. So this reflects a good sign of the group credit worthiness in covering its short-term obligation. Okay, next. For total liability and equity, from the total liability and equity, the total current liability are highly in the last year, which is from the last previous 5 years. So this can be explained why it contains the high risk of the Asia X Berhad in term to meet with their short-term borrowing. For the total non-current liability also high in the total liability and equity, which is about maximum in 72%. In last year, they explained the high rate of long-term borrowing. Okay.
Estimating free cash flows. Based on financial report by Asia X, we obtain all 5 years financial report, so then we can calculate their free cash flows by using their net income. We can find the free cash flows based on tax return with 24%, and then we assume the growth rate at 2%, and then after we get the cash flow, we discounted the cash flow at rate of 10%. After we sum up the discounted value, we get the enterprise value. Based on the financial report by AirAsia, we can get a debt. Thus, we minus the enterprise value with debt, and then we obtain the equity value. So, by using the equity value, we divide the equity value with the share outstanding. Thus, we can get the price value. The price value obtained for AirAsia X is RM 1 ringgit 56 cent per share. According to Kuala Lumpur Stock Exchange, I checked on 3rd January 2021. The share price is 75%. So this is clearly that current share price is lesser than the value of company that have been calculated. This can show that AirAsia is currently facing hard times with their financial performance. Next, the recommendation. The first recommendation that could be made by AirAsia Berhad is to restructure their business plan. The company needs to identify its weakness that cause major problems to their cash flows and identify any upcoming business scenario. AirAsia needs to look up matters like recent business expansion, current cash assets, capital expenditure, etc. The debt restructuring plan is one of the most recommended business plans for AirAsia. Under AirAsia current circumstance, AirAsia urgently needs to restructure its massive debt, or otherwise AirAsia might be liquidated. The second recommendation is AirAsia needs to figure out an alternative for the company to generate income while waiting for Prime Minister announcement to reopen the international borders. The corporation can shift their nature of business for a temporary period to recover and keep their operation going. For example, AirAsia recently started to expand its business in the food and beverage industry. According to Heller, AirAsia opened a restaurant named Santan Restaurant that served in-flight meals on the ground in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. The last recommendation is managing the company expenses wisely. The finance manager needs to reduce any unnecessary expenses incurred by the company. AirAsia needs to find better resources or suppliers that will not incur high cost to the company. Besides, AirAsia also recommended to reduce their fixed income, such as high salary, high commission, or any luxury benefits given to staff or the stakeholders. The airline needs to cut the staff salaries to save the airline from collapse. Last conclusion. From the analysis, it clearly that AHX Berhad has a difficult situation based on their past financial statement analysis. AHX Berhad incurred more liability and borrowing to sustain their operation and business, as well as restructure back their organization so they can survive and sustain for this year. Now, it can be seen that AHX already downsized their company this year following their restructure plan in 2019. 2020 is more challenging as pandemic COVID-19 happened that most of their operations already being held all the way. Hoping for the 2021, AHX Berhad will stay more stable and perform more in their operation. Asia needs to plan fresh strategies to keep the company from collapse despite having financial difficulties. That's all from us. Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.